What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff, arm yourselves, life stuff. This would probably normally be an order development video, but it's all, everything we're going to discuss today is all united under faith. For a while now, I've been trying to find things that align with whatever it is I'm feeling. Feeling the decline, feeling the constant deception, feeling a sharpening happening that you need to be involved in, feeling that nastification, feeling nothing, no transmissions you're receiving out of language are making any sense or doing any good. Yet, all the while, feeling there there's something. There are answers to these problems and to these questions, but on a level or in a place inaccessible to you. And I'm beginning to have a lot more faith, or my suspicion I should have faith, we should have faith, in the soil is growing. The spirits of the lands. And with all the mysticism bullshit we talk, I'm confused as to why this never occurred to me. You are part of something larger. And I don't know if this is a McKenna sentiment or a John Michael Gautier sentiment, but this idea, it's not about finding alien intelligences, it's about recognizing them as alien intelligences. Or in other words, maybe we already see them but are missing them. We're so monkey centric, we can't, or we refuse to perceive different forms of consciousness or different levels of consciousness unless they relate to us in some way. As in, animals are a lot smarter cognitively and emotionally than we give them credit for, but for some reason that is a difficult message to communicate to people because a dog, for instance, even though it's a mammal, it's not like us, so it can't be intelligent or emotional like us. But of course it can, and then with the Le Bon crowd psychology thing, the more you pay attention to it, the more paranoid you get about which crowd illusions you are living under. As in, which assumptions have you been brainwashed with to the point you don't realize these are assumptions you're making? You're looking at yourself as you. But, well, you are you. There is a you. But you are also a component of something greater. And that's a slider. You can slide it as high or as low as you'd like. But listening to your instincts, at what level do you feel you should slide it? You can scale it all the way up to Mother Earth, and I think that's where we'll reach eventually if we don't destroy ourselves. But right now, where I feel we should slide it, or at least I should slide it, is to a continental level. Nationhood comes with lots of peculiarities, and I'm not talking a state. I mean, for people sharing soil, similarities begin to arise. And again, not just in a culture forming as a reaction to a particular environment way. I mean, there are shared patterns among your peers in blood and soil you can't, or you can recognize, and you can feel slowly we're moving towards some answer, but we can't force them we certainly can't talk our way into these solutions. You have these urges, and at some point, they will be made good on. Not by your actions, not by anyone in particular's actions, but once the time is right, once the organism is ready. Example: as an American, I am obligated to spend at least 15 minutes per day thinking about race. And race is always confusing, especially in the United States, but it's contradictory. As in, it seems no matter what we try to do as a people, we can't sort this race shit out, and in many cases don't want to, on all sides. Yet, at the same time, even within the most racist, opposed groups, there is also this confusing urge to integrate. It's clumsy and it's contradictory, but it's there. Among Southern whites, you have well, he's one of the good ones in relation to black people who, and not even act white necessarily. That's another interesting thing about, quotes, one of the good ones in the Southern white culture. They're not looking for black people to act white. It's hard to explain. It almost feels pheromonal. It's some animal shit. People will try to come up with reasons, but in my experience, for no particular reason, this tribe has now expanded to include members of a group who are supposed to be from an opposing tribe, aren't actually acting very different from the opposing tribe, but again, for some unknown reason, they're with us now. And you see that in black circles too. When I was younger, I got to be the inexplicable white friend for a while. And then you have these cultural cross pollinations, which in themselves are odd because we're all and this isn't just in the South, but we're all crawling out of the same muck and going in different directions, but sharing origins and then taking from one another, all while hating one another, yet, again, taking these elements and improving ourselves with them, and always looking for whatever your ethnic group or cultural group would consider one of the good ones, and liking very much when you find them. That's a paradox. So, what's going on here? I'm beginning to think the state we're in right now is necessary and will be resolved later, once it's time. It feels contradictory to us because we are individuals within something greater. We don't have the full picture. But our not having the full picture doesn't mean there is not a bigger picture. And I think your instincts, the straight path you find without a book, is your hint at what's going on. It's not, I mean, it can just direct you to do what needs to be done according to the nation's will, but if you're observant about what you and other people feel, I think they are also clues. Another curiosity in that sphere. Have you noticed Americans' desire, even among the very racist or racially insulated, to want to fuck outside their race? Not always, not at all times, but these urges are there. Within this climate that is supposed to be super racially segregated and tense and all this, I feel like we're being primed through our genitals to resolve this issue. I think that's the way we're going to do this. And not by turning coffee-ish, as Lemmy said, but more like what Patrice said. Nobody wants one thing. They want a little of this mixed with a little of something else, and so on. I think your land is gene crafting you. And if you're spiritually minded, or even if you aren't, because you eat local honey, for instance, you start developing allergy tolerances based on the food you're eating. It's not even on a spiritual level. You are connecting with your environment when you eat food grown or harvested or slaughtered in your environment. It feels like you are, whether you want to be or not, on some level, connected biologically with your environment. But more importantly, it feels like you're getting more than that. And you can choose to get even more than that, develop even more of a connection if you actively seek it out. Unless you're a first generation immigrant, your soil, the soil you're living on right now, made you. Your mother carried you, but your nation fed you. Your nation fed your mother, your nation fed her parents, your father's parents, your father, your neighbors. I don't think culture is strictly this mimetic and somewhat genetic thing. The food you eat, the air you breathe, contains messages to you from your nation. And although you receive these messages and act on them as you're supposed to, you don't perceive them as messages because you've been programmed not to. And that's another thing that feels like a contradiction. Because if your culture at large isn't supposed to know about it, then there's probably a reason for that. Because some cultures are in tune with these ideas, but what does it mean that you're beginning to receive hints or are beginning to be able to pick up on what's actually going on? It feels like something you aren't supposed to know or see, but you're seeing it, so why? But here, right now, that why doesn't really matter. The point is, we're all part of a building national strategy. We think we're better than something like ants because ants are controlled by pheromones. Yet ants are waging international wars. And then you have that superorganism thing. We're the same thing, but we are directed by a more complicated direction delivery vehicle. It's not just pheromones, it's other instincts mixed with ideas. Handed to us by the lands we live on. Because, or one consistent thing in my life, I've never wanted to be anywhere else. I mean, you'd like to visit places, or it'd be cool to live in this place in this time, but there isn't another country I want to live on. And that has nothing to do with our state. I mean the soil. I have always loved American soil. And not in an especially park rangery sort of way, but in a oneness way. And then you get into attitude. In the United States, we're supposed to be so different, but what do Americans like? More than anything, and more than other countries, we like winning things. And I don't believe that is a byproduct of state propaganda or culture or something like that. I think it's the reverse. The land embedded that within us. In the United States, it's not a matter of what you believe, it is how you believe it. And how you believe it is with the desire to win. Everyone else is wrong or evil. You're right and good, and you are going to make it your mission to figure out how to prove that, how to get your win. Other countries really aren't like that, or they express it in a very different way, according to their land. It's hard to get more heated and competitive than an American when they believe they're right and they should win. They deserve the win. So why are we so fucked up right now? Part of me thinks it's like Miss North America bulking, and when the bad times quotes comes, that's her cutting. But I don't know. But it doesn't matter that I don't know, which is an odd feeling. I don't know, but I feel something. That's what we call righteousness, and typically we associate that with whatever God you serve. That's the language we were using before, and will probably still continue to use. Why have just one answer? I'm also beginning to perceive it as directions for you from your land for your and your land's overall benefit. Even if, from your point of view, none of it makes sense, everything seems contradictory, and everything feels like it's in a downturn. Because from your point of view, it is contradictory, we are in a downturn. But it's beginning to feel like part of a larger strategy we can't fully see or appreciate, and probably won't in our lifetimes. And I've been thinking about this. This feels like it would be an unconscious or sneaky effort to hand responsibility for everything over to this other thing the way a religion would. But this is another thing I think is the opposite. If you've been granted greater insight or felt the stir of a calling, then that's a signal for more responsibility. And I don't want to get my hopes up. No solution, no salvation. If you feel you need to do something, you do it without expecting to be saved, without expecting to resolve anything, at least from your point of view. That still holds. But at the same time, right now, it feels like this greater insight, these calls, greater responsibility, there is an opportunity to receive greater rewards. I've been thinking a lot about typology lately, and on some level I've already come to accept the role most typology people play in typology, which is to say, they're really dumb and annoying, and they give, quote, serious typologists a bad name and keep the wider population out of typology with the way they act and think and are annoying. But it's the same thing with astrology. It's been a while since we've talked about them, but latte bitches keep average Joe dipshit away from the freak in the nook with the wheels and the celestial charts, who's doing good work. But in this greater soil strategy concept, I'm wondering how intentional that is. If you've been into typology for a while, then you know what typology, even at the level we have it right now, is capable of. And we talked a while ago about how much further I think you can take typology to pull off some wild shit the species is not ready for. Manhattan Project levels. Why hasn't anyone important picked up on this yet? I'm sure some have, but why isn't this common knowledge? How potent typology is as a tool. And then with that comes the uneasy suspicion maybe powerful groups actually haven't figured this out yet. I'm sure they have, but what if they haven't? And even if they have, then the population at large hasn't. This is an opportunity, and it feels like it's been given to you. And it feels like this is part of the way you can fulfill your role and be rewarded for it. I don't think it's a mistake there is a concentration of high level typology in the United States. And the reason I bring this up is not strictly to talk about typology, it's more this growing idea you are part of a strategic machine, an individual consciousness, and an extension of a greater consciousness located in the soil, and you're part of something and you have a job to do, and you do it by living the life that is yours and that you've been given. And when I look at things this way, I'm sure I will be back to stress and misery and terror soon. Because even if you do look at it this way, those things are not going to go away. You are still an individual ego. But I'm beginning to worry less about the things you're supposed to be worried about. It's like an evolution of nationalism that has nothing to do with the state or the people the way we look at them. It's this growing faith in the spirit of your soil's plan. And the new world is gunning for something. Your job isn't individually to solve all the world's problems. Your nation or the world will do that itself. Your job is to perform the role you've been handed by your soil so your soil can handle all those big problems. If you're concerned about these big problems, then focus on doing what you're supposed to do so the big problem solver can solve the big problems. And I think I trust it will. Back to the race thing here. As an American, that is a large concern for me. It's a confusing concern. It's hard to parse out these feelings and what's going on. Certainly not how to resolve them, especially when everybody can't get on the same page. But that doesn't matter. If you want to try to reason around it or toward it, and you should try, that one INFJ dude from last year, tension and conflict produce very good things when handled correctly. Maybe we're in an age which requires some form of production, which will be resolved because even within all these tensions, even though we can't get everyone on the same page, it's funny because we're not on the same page, but at the same time we're on the exact same page. Hatred and love at the same time, and you can't undo them right now. But they will be undone. They will be resolved when the time is right. We need them now for something. But you can already see and feel the kill switch for racial tension like this in the United States once that time comes. We're already prepped for it. Trust is the idea and the feeling I am playing around with here. And maybe hatred of the state comes from the fact your government, or parts of your government, that's another interesting thing, serves space demons, not the god or goddess of your soil. Why are they so fucked up and creepy and hate you and want you to die and feel overall malevolent? It's because the people ruling you at the moment are not connected with the land. But then that interesting thing I mentioned, it does feel like there are elements both in corporations and in states that are beginning to feel that connection with the soil. Like they're trying. How would I describe it? The nodes. There are nodes within the government or corporations which previously were dampened. They're there, but you can't connect with them. Now, little lights are flipping up in certain spots within them, and you can begin to connect with them. Maybe there are elements beginning to fight back. Despite the way I feel about everything, this change feels undeniable. Or at least to the point I can't deny it. It feels like something is happening within the United States government and in certain large corporations. You can feel there are small elements linking up with this growing awareness or hive mind. This is another one of those videos. I feel like I'm missing something, and I feel I've made no point, while at the same time feeling like I hit what needed to be hit. Aside, maybe from emphasizing once more, you know what you need to be doing. Do it to the best of your ability and trust that the role you are filling will deal with the things you are concerned about. And maybe that's another link with typology. There's something about this faith in the soil thing which connects or is tied to the hip with typology. Part of that connection that I haven't worked out totally would be the way people think, or lots of people think, typology takes away from individuality or the idea of individuality, when from years ago we understood it does and it doesn't. It's another one of these perfect contradictions. It emphasizes individuality and emphasizes non-individuality at the same time. With this soil thing, in the same way, it's like you're part of a hive mind and trust this overwill, which seems like it would be forfeiting your ego or attacking your ego, but actually you trust in this greater will and connect more to the hive mind by developing your ego even harder. You're supposed to have it. You need to be a heightened individual to be a heightened component of a heightened collective. Okay. I feel certain we haven't clicked this together the way I would like it to be clicked together, but for today, that's about as far as we're going to get. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.